Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. We are back to recap a terrific Oklahoma win over the Michigan Wolverines, 24-13, one of the signature moments in the Brent Venables era. Guys, I got to say, I think we're all really, nervous for this one. Obviously, a big defining game. There are a lot of big games on this schedule, but if they kind of failed to win this one at home against a true freshman quarterback, I think things would have been a little bit dour. But hey, we don't have to worry about that. The Sooners won in, I think, I don't want to say emphatic fashion, but I feel like they controlled this game out like pretty much all the way through, I would say.
Yeah, and Sooner fans, hot and cold, it could have been a terror podcast. It could have been bad, a bunch of dooming. But we're hot now, baby. And now it's like we're thinking to the future. And I think you're right, Bobby. Honestly, this score, 24-13, doesn't do it justice. And I mean, did we really feel nervous at all during that game once? I think no.
I will say in stadium, around the fourth quarter when Michigan kind of kept it a little close, there were some mistakes being made, I was pretty nervous. It just felt like there were really good opportunities, and I don't want to lead off by talking about the issues, but there are a couple issues that kept him away from really shutting the door on this and kind of tidying it up, where he kind of thought that old OU would might creep in, and the Venables team from last year that just found ways to lose, in pretty relatively positive situations. You were worried that would rear its ugly head again, but this is a different team for sure. And I thought they were very impressive. Ty, general overall thoughts of the game before we kind of dive into some of the minutia and all that?
I think the number one thing to continue to emphasize is that this team looked like the better team, and it looked like a young team. It looked like a team that was still young in the season and still getting its mesh together. And there definitely are some points that are very worrisome that I'm sure we will touch on here. But there was a lot of stuff, I think, to gain from this game, knowledge-wise, about what we can expect from this OU team, regardless of how the season matures for Michigan. I think the talent that they have, you can look at some of the stuff and say, okay, this OU defense, this OU defensive line is a real deal and is a problem for people. One of my biggest things, and again, we'll dive into this, is a lot of the mistakes that we saw are very correctable things that can be corrected mid-season, right? Like sometimes a guy's just not that guy, but penalties, stuff like that. If we were having these big
stupid penalties too, from the refs' stupidity and our stupidity.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the refs here in a second. Yeah, and then just, again, having the situation in hand, we look like the better team. A big thing for me, and if you've listened to more than one episode of this podcast, you will notice rare occasion that Ty, because I'm a casual, is talking about the line. This Michigan defense was pretty vaunted as one of their stronger position groups that they were going to bring in terms of star power and what they can present to us. And we had a big question mark on this O-line. Yes, we didn't do much on the grounds, and we'll get into that more as well. But very rarely, from what you were hearing about this OU O-line and what you were hearing about this Michigan defense, very rarely was Mateer truly pressed to have to make a pass in a weird situation. It was, yes, you're always going to get rushes and everything else with a team as talented as Michigan, but time and time again, like on the average of the game, this O-line did not look like something that I would be worried about. That can age poorly, I guess, going into the season, but that was my most impressive piece.
It just looked like something that'll work. Really, it didn't look amazing, but it looked like something that'll work. And it doesn't take much to really appease our fans right now when it comes down to the offensive line.
Right, and I was very impressed with the O-line, honestly. It looked a lot better from last week. Fasusi is a dude, man. In your first start as a freshman against Michigan to perform like that was very impressive. The unit as a whole, I thought, was impressive. And overall, I think the thing that stood out to me, a lot of the conversation was about how is this going to play out in the trenches. Michigan, known for really good O-line, really good D-line in the past, a physical, big, gritty football team, a program that has heritage, has pride in that. And Oklahoma, the physicality was there from the jump across the board. And you could tell that, they really brought it. That's something that hasn't really been a massive hallmark of recent Oklahoma football teams. The Brent Venables era has brought it back in slowly, more and more and more. And we're at a point where this is a tough, nasty football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Those guys were popping some pads. They looked like the more physical team. They looked like they had an edge there. And against a team like Michigan, that is really impressive. And
we made them.
That should make you feel good.
That team was uncomfortable the whole time. Bryce Underwood against pressure was absolutely piss poor. I don't want to hear about the composure of him under the pressure of the spotlights. I get it. It takes a lot to go out and do well in this game, and he has a lot of tools to do well in the future. Absolutely pitiful versus our pass rush and versus the blitz. Their run game was essentially non-existent in the grand scheme of things other than the 75-yard run. I understand you can go, take out the averages, and it'll be, Justice Haynes was only 18 carries, 50 yards if we didn't have a 75-yard run. I understand everything with that. But in reality is they were playing third and long. They were playing third and medium a lot of the game because David Stone stepped up, and the guys in the interior. I mean, even with some of the boneheaded plays that we saw from some of the guys on the defense, like Dominic Williams, I think had a really good game. I think that we saw a couple of really good plays from Jane Jackson. It's this interior, the defensive line, and the guys that we have that are big. That's SEC ready.
Yeah. Can I say about that real quick? And this is, if you've listened to more than one episode of this pod or the weekend spread, I tend to lean towards not being Brent Venables' biggest fan. I think there are better wins, yes, on the resume. Texas last year comes to mind, or the Dylan Gabriel game comes to mind. But this, I think, is maybe his best win in OU. And I think the biggest thing that I can pin on him is how flat and confused we came out that first play from half when they had that massive run. Formation didn't make sense. No one was dialed in. Like, we looked like we had sort of rat poison because we were up a little bit and thought we could coast. That, I think, right, something to work on there. But the second that happened, that defense went back, and then the next drive, they were locked back in like they were, and then they stayed that way through the end of the game. And it's one thing to come out a little flat, a little relaxed, a little not prepared from halftime. It's very, very challenging to correct that as a leader and as a culture and with your team. And to me, it's a little more impressive when you can make that correction mid-game after people have already gotten lax and then recorrect it to the same level versus just never having that drop. Ideally, in the future, we're never going to have that drop again because that could have been a game-deciding thing if this was a closer game. Like, we can't be up 2 scores because that's 2 plays away from having a tie ball game, right? Like, this was a very, very, very impressive head coaching performance and a very impressive DC performance, I think, from Venables, because you saw that team with grit and that team putting in full effort the entire time and that team rising to the occasion like I have not seen from a Brent Venables OU team ever, I think. And again, someone's going to argue like, oh, this win was maybe a little better like Alabama last year. But Alabama last year, I think to some extent, and this is not to reiterate Bama talking points, but Alabama last year had a vote in how that one ended up. And they played sloppy and they made mistakes. We capitalized on them. But had they brought their A game, who knows? Michigan brought not their A game, but Michigan didn't give this one to us. We took this win and we looked dominant throughout. And to me, very, very, very impressive.
It wasn't due to a lack of interest on the Michigan end. Clearly big game. You felt the environment. You felt it. It was like the entire day you felt it. But I mean, the Sooners came to play in a massive way, and you could tell from the jump that they were not going to lose that game.
Do you think Michigan's that good of a football team? Like, I don't want to be that person, but like, do we think at the end of the season they're going to be a team that has 4 losses? I think
they have a good record.
I don't think that. I mean, just based on what I saw versus them in New Mexico in this game, are you really?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about these Big Ten schedules. where is Michigan going to get 4 losses, even if they are atrocious?
With a freshman quarterback, anything's possible.
For sure, I get that.
So they drop USC, they drop Ohio
They
State.
could lose to Nebraska. I honestly would pick Nebraska. They going to Nebraska without their head coach. I think Nebraska wins the game. I think USC can beat them as well. And then Ohio State.
I mean, worst case scenario, I see 3 more losses on the schedule. Like that's like if they're going to lose to Ohio State, surely. But I mean, I'm not afraid of at Maryland if I'm them. I'm not afraid of at Northwestern, Michigan State. And I know it's a rivalry game, but they've been pretty dodgy recently. So I don't know. I think they're going to end up with a solid record, but not a playoff caliber team. And I don't think they are. I don't think they're that level of good.
Heather Dinich was like, this could be a great game for a tiebreaker when it comes down to the committee. I was like, okay, no, you're trying to write a paragraph on like why this game matters in your little pre-CFP column. Like that. No, this is not going to be a thing. And I don't want to put down this team. And honestly, this is putting down Oklahoma a little bit. But what I saw from the past 2 weeks, I don't know if Michigan is that team that we used to know. They lost a lot of talent last year, and it showed. They didn't have those guys. And like those wide receivers, Bobby and Ty, like legitimately, like your buddy said, they truly did look like they should be out making food deliveries.
Yeah, it was not the offensive performance. I mean, they had a couple big moments. You know, I think Underwood had a really good pass at one point.
One good pass. Where congratulations.
We had one good pass, and you had the Justice Haynes big run. He would pop any success he would have was outside of the framework of what Michigan was trying to get him to do. Like anytime he improv'd, I thought he was good, but if they're just running the offense, it was very milquetoast, very uninteresting. A lot of the success they had was because of massive Oklahoma mistakes. It wasn't like they were doing anything overwhelmingly good on offense. And a lot of that you have to give credit to the OU defense for, but if you're someone who thinks the Michigan offense is something good, or Underwood is automatically going to make this a 10-win team because now they have a quarterback, that's not the case. So that offense was not very impressive at all. Ty, you're waggling your finger.
I noticed this. You can go back and watch the tape. It was inconsequential in the long run, so no one's talking about it. There's a few people on Twitter that have noticed this as well. Underwood's best pass, and it was not the only one of the night. He had one other that was also like this, but Underwood's best, most clutch pass was 1.5 yards in front of the line of scrimmage. He had 2 passes that were egregiously in front of the line and should have been called and weren't, and no one caught it right in the moment. So I will, that one, even if he had thrown it like half a heartbeat before as he was on the run, still would have been a completed pass. So I guess that's something to look at for the offense, but just a little treat, as I know at some point officiating is going to come up in this one. There was some egregious stuff that I'm not trying to sound bitter because it was, again, inconsequential and we need to work on that anyways, but I don't know who officiated, if this was us or them, but it
should be. I think it was a Big Ten officiating crew. I'm pretty sure.
The thing is, like, I think that we want to give props to Michigan. I want to give us props for making a big time win. But at the same time, is like, if you like watching them this far, I would take Auburn straight up head to head on a neutral field. Now I'm looking towards the future. Like we need to prepare for Auburn and their defensive line and their skill positions, their wide receivers. Like that's our next big step. And we need to treat that like a Michigan game, because this whole offseason, Brent Venables did not give an F at all about Illinois State. And obviously he rested people who didn't need to be rested. He played vanilla play calls all for this game. And Brent Venables is a genius when it comes down to defensive scheme. We know that about him. If he can get his time and effort to go out there and make a good game plan, I feel very confident. Now let's see how quickly he can do it with a week in advance. I don't think that, we're going to put too much into Temple. So I think he can start preparing for Auburn right now. But that game was do or die for Brent, and that's why he put into this. And I don't know if we can get a do or die defensive scheme every single game this season, especially coming from a head coach who has a lot of other duties right now. So I mean, I'm very, very happy, and we'll kind of dive into the details more. But I think big picture with this, I think as an OU fan, I'm happy about it. But now I'm looking towards the future, and I've got bigger thoughts.
Yeah, without a doubt. If OU is going to have the season we want them to have, a 9-win, something like that, this is going to have to be like the 4th or 5th best win of that resume.
I think that's a good way to say
it. When you look at the top 25, the Sooners only play like the current top 25 today. There are only 2 teams on the entire schedule that aren't ranked. It's Kent State and it's Temple. So the rest of the way, you're dealing with, high level, highly thought of competition, especially at this point. That obviously won't stick. Teams will lose. Teams will drop out. But you're going to have to do more work. I will say with Auburn, not to get ahead of our skis here.
Yeah, we need to talk about this game. This is my fault. Sorry. I'm like so bad about this.
Well, we haven't we're 16 minutes in and we haven't talked about maybe one of probably the biggest story to me. We have ourselves a damn quarterback with John Mateer. Obviously we really liked what we saw against Illinois State last week. I thought there were a lot of things people were pretty pumped on for good reason. But the question was always, can you put it on tape against Michigan, the big boys? And he put it on tape. That was probably the best quarterbacking performance we've had in Norman, I would say, since, let's go ahead and say Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's an easy bar to hit.
Norman, yeah.
Kyler Murray, then. I think you could say Kyler Murray.
No, what I'm saying, I think Jalen Hurts is fair. Yeah. I think Jalen Hurts had some games that were better than this.
Yeah, fair. But
I don't think that Spencer Rattler ever showed us anything. And then Caleb Williams, he was kind of iffy, plus or minus in his time, other than in Texas.
Yeah, the in Norman, the little asterisk.
Yes.
The in Norman piece, because Dylan Gabriel, Red River also.
Yeah, another thing too. But we let's not go down that path either.
Right. We don't need to rehash the Dylan Gabriel legacy piece. But no, I thought Mateer was excellent. I feel unbelievably confident in his ability to handle big games, the big stage. He stepped up when he needed to. Obviously ran a ton, 20 some odd attempts, but his ability to make plays, to make impossible passes at times. The Satania pass, along the sideline was just excellent. And, a lot of hype going into this. Obviously, it got to a point where it's through the roof. It feels like it was warranted. If he continues that type of performance, we have a Heisman contender on our hands.
Well, he's the Heisman favorite right now.
Yeah, as he should be. He was excellent.
Yeah, I will say some of the other people that were quote unquote in the Heisman running are certainly helping that as well.
Yeah,
it's wide open. Stinkers across the board outside of Illinois and TCU. But here's my thing about Mateer. And the one criticism that people have is, yes, some accuracy stuff. Yes, some if you look at the on paper stats, is he the perfect quarterback? No, I don't think so. And if you look at the on paper stats, is he the best quarterback in college football right now? Absolutely not. Probably not even top 3 in terms of on paper, quote unquote, stat. Not performance, but how accuracy, throw power. If it was a video game, probably not even top 3 in the SEC. But he has the Baker Mayfield comps. He's not Baker Mayfield 2.0, but the Baker Mayfield comps in terms of how he runs, how he acts as a leader on the team, the vibe he brings, and then just keeping those eyes downfield and extending the play and not being afraid to take a hit, which I would like to see him slide a little bit more, but also not being afraid or really pressured by pocket pressure. Again, is he the most accurate when he's throwing those? Not necessarily, but is he the most accurate when he's throwing those without pressure? Still also not necessarily. So there's not.
But that's what Baker did too, Ty. Yeah. Baker was so great because he's had such that edge, but then he'd make bonehead throws. He still does it in the pros. He did it today.
Baker was much more accurate in general, I think. But Mateer is. I have not had this much fun watching an OU quarterback since Kyler, and that's not no discredit to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was, arguably maybe a little better than Kyler, but depends on what you value, but he just wasn't as fun for me. This was like watching, I was having flashbacks and the same feelings as watching a Kyler game or, Baker Mayfield game or a Sam Bradford game back in, the 2000s. That style of just keep your eyes downfield, extend the play, and it really complicates teams planning against us in the future when they watch that tape and they go, this is not a guy that you can pressure. This is a guy that you have to put down. You can't you don't get the almost like you're playing horseshoes or bocce ball.
Mhm.
Like you have to put him down or he's making that throw. You can't just put someone in his face. And I'm sure there's a lot more things on tape for him, but I'm so excited to have his team led by a guy like John Latier.
Yeah, he's confident, and so I'm confident in him. We didn't get to have that recently. That's one of the more invaluable characteristics to have in an athlete, no matter what sport you're playing, is confidence, because you're always going to be better if you're out there. Sometimes you can go into arrogant and you make mistakes, but that's honestly, I want him to ride that line of confidence and arrogance. And where if he throws an interception because he's trying to be a little bit aggressive, that's fine. And that's better than the interceptions that we saw last year, because I got nervous. I didn't like my first read, and then I throw the ball to the heavens and Jackson Arnold. And so it's just a breath of fresh air, and he's going to go out there and make big plays, and he's going to make mistakes. Like, prepare for it, guys. This season, there are going to be some mistakes that are going to make us really angry, but he's going to have more of those plays where it's like, holy crap, that dude just did that.
Mm-hmm. He's a swashbuckler, and that's something you like. And that confidence, the way he plays the game, it feels like we feel like Oklahoma again. It just feels right. And I think that's something that it has just been so sorely missed over the past couple of years. And, I couldn't be happier with how he operates it and how he works within Arbuckle's offense for sure. Which, by the way, I thought obviously just game 2, Arbuckle, I thought great game overall.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously some running back concerns, that's still a bit of a weird situation, but the way Arbuckle called that game, especially that last drive in the fourth quarter where you just slowly chip away at Michigan, you're just watching their hopes just slowly go down the drain, just flaying them like Ramsey Bolton, that had to have just been.
That's a take. There we go.
I know. It was painful. It was brutal. It was awesome. Just turn shoe clock on and suck the life out of them. You can't stop us. That was one of the best drives I've seen in a long time because of the situation and because of the ability to hold yourself back from trying to throw a knockout punch way too early and just taking control of the situation. And I was just super pleased with that.
And true freshman quarterback and a coach in Sharon Moore that had horrible clock management in the second half that just completely got pie in their face from losing all of their timeouts.
Yeah. Shout out to Sharon Moore for doing a tribute to his old coach, Bob Stoops, and just randomly burning timeouts for no reason. And then no one really even noticing that he burned them. And then you're sitting in a situation where you're like, at least where did 2 of their timeouts go? I love that as a tribute to
big yikes on that standpoint. But that the way that drive happened, it's like you blink and all of a sudden it's the 2-minute warning. You're just like, oh, that feels so good, because that's how you win close football games. We need to be, the control of our own destinies. We don't want to put ourselves in a position like that Missouri game at the end. I obviously it's a completely different thing, but we want to go out there and play tough nose football. And if that be with the QB run, so be it. I think that honestly, this run game is going to be a thorn in our side as defenses start to scheme against us. They've seen the tape now and they realize, okay, if I can keep a QB spy and I can dare these running backs to run, that's what's going to have to set us over the top, because I think our offensive line, like you guys said, has shown some consistency. They may not be the best unit in the country, but they at least shown to be competent. But now if we do not have a runner that is not Javonte Barnes going to run into the back end of an offensive lineman, and Jay Knott has zero confidence running the ball with his hand, we need to figure out something, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, the odd thing is so confusing to me, but I think your theory of maybe he's just not running back one might be proven have been proven.
I don't want to be that person, but legitimately I've heard none of that said, which is the wildest thing, because whenever you are RB3 on the depth chart, that means that you are not the best. Everyone wants to find a different reason. Nobody else is saying that.
Well,
nobody wants to hear it.
Which is fair. And, I thought that maybe everything's okay when Jaden Knott, announced as a starter. We see him out there, but I mean, I know he didn't get a ton of burn.
He wasn't the starter in the second half. It was Blaylock.
Yeah. Blaylock is the better running back right now. Just with my two eyes, you can see it. You could just tell.
And Blaylock was questionable too, so like you would assume like as like the season goes on, hopefully he can get a little bit healthier with that shoulder, but like a questionable guy throughout the whole week, true freshman, is getting more run. Like the snap count between the two is let's look it up. So Jaden Knott had 23 snaps at running back, and Torrey Blaylock had 27.
Yeah, well, Blaylock runs hungry. Like he runs like he needs this, and I'm not trying to denigrate Jaden Knott. Injuries change between person to person, but the fact of the matter is one guy's a true freshman who has been overlooked, and the other guy's somewhat of a made man with, the NIL deal he got, which, it's totally fine, but there's something about Blaylock that you like because he plays like he desperately needs every single snap to count. I like that. I like that for a fact with him. And even though Barnes, obviously a bit of a weird runner, great pass blocker. I think he's pretty good at that.
And he runs with an attitude. He might be the wrong way, but he runs with an attitude, which was great the last drive.
Yeah, and he had that nice little slip screen pass. The little that was key as well.
Yeah, but they're going to be the reason this season that defenses can key in on us. So we need to fix something there. We have the talent, but we need to do something about it.
Yeah,
right.
It's not disrespectful to anyone to say that Jaden Knott is firmly RB3 right now in this lineup. And it gets into disrespectful when you start to speculate, is he a mercenary graduate transfer that doesn't really care that much?
I think he's just scared. I think he was hurt all offseason. He's scared he's going to get hurt again because he was hurt all last season too.
I don't know, but I mean, that's the same thing. Is the why because he doesn't care? Or the why is because I think I'm not seeing, and it could be, right? I'm not out on the field, but it doesn't look like we're getting the same amount of effort from him as we are the other guys. And for me and in this offense, that's what we need because we need a back right now, especially with, maybe the line is just figured out pass protect because that's all they focus on. And we're going to try to build into, being able to enable running. But we need someone that can play that hero ball sometimes. And you're not getting that hero ball with 75% effort or whatever else. It's why Mateer was the leading rusher on this team and not just because design stuff. If you look at the runs that he did, if you go back and watch the highlights and stuff, he is eyes downfield again, making smart decisions and extending runs that other quarterbacks and even full on, just running backs would not have extended. That his second touchdown, I believe, where he made that read to sort of cut back to the right was Baker-esque in his moves there. And it's just, we have to have that effort, especially on this offense like we're talking about, where the running is continuing to be a deficiency of this offense. And, we'll get into the passing as well, because I am a little worried about the O going forward, that we have something that works really well, and it's Mateer just throwing to Deion Burks. And I am kind of worried that that's it. That's the one thing we can count on. And
I knew Jaren Kanek throwing to him. That ain't it.
Yeah.
Man.
That's what I mean, though, is like if they know that like the 100% reliability of success offensive thing that we have is just various schemes of Mateer getting the ball to Burks.
Dude, Keontae Lewis was a baller last week. I think that's a bad take, bro.
But he wasn't getting open a ton in this game, is what I'm saying.
He didn't need to. Our pass game, I think, was great. We got the ball 5 catches to Jaren Kanek, 7 to Deion Burks. He had 3 himself and a good 18-yard catch. Like I think Mateer, I was not concerned at all about our pass game.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that balanced wide receiver room is a good thing. Sometimes guys won't stand out of the stat sheet as much. You can't have everybody have 100-yard games. It's a pie that you have to divvy up. And, just because he didn't have as big of a piece as last week, it doesn't mean he's bad. It's just kind of how it shook out this week.
Yeah, we're not one-dimensional.
Bad. I'm saying that it is just becoming, I don't know. It's maybe we're still being conservative with some of that. We're still building into it. There's obviously still some timing and some chemistry being built between Mateer and these receivers. Like you can't build that in practice the way you can in games. So
I think Wink was just showing
I'm
some
looking for the pop
hella
off.
good disguise with blitz patterns and was creating material to be a little bit, of a guy on the run. And that's why we saw so much running from him and getting out of the pocket and throwing for 270 yards for Wink Martindale. It's like pretty damn good in my opinion.
Yeah, they have a damn good D coordinator for sure. And I will say, I think too, when you compare Deion Burks as the leading receiver from last year, where he truly was the only guy out there, to now, you can definitely see that depth a little bit more when you compare and contrast to, like, let's say the Tulane game last year, where he's getting every reception and getting the hell beat out of him because he's the only guy catching passes. So I think there are degrees to it. I think, by the way, Burks looks excellent. So very happy with him.
Yeah, he's what we knew he was at the beginning of the season last year, and he's doing it again right now. And if we continue to keep him healthy and we keep positive vibes around the team, I'm hoping that he will continue with his positive vibes and energy and effort. And I think that's what it all comes down to. I don't know obviously what happened within the locker room last year, but I can tell you 100% that the wide receiver locker room was absolute crap. just reading the tea leaves. So it was really easy to detach as a wide receiver. So I don't think I want to judge Deion Burks too much from what he did at the latter half of the season, even though there were some things where it's like, why is he not playing whenever he's very obviously healthy enough to do it? I think now that we're in a positive culture with a new offense scheme with actually a competent quarterback, you're going to see Deion Burks, that type of guy that got 3 touchdowns at the beginning of the season last year, the one that was like destroying everyone in the spring game, kind of guy is what we should expect.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, I do want to make a point about Kanik. I know the drop was bad. I think overall, I really am a fan of him, though.
The drop touchdown one where he alligator armed it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
No, yeah. It was a bit of a trick play, little tricky catch, but overall, I think
if you would have caught it, it would have been a stellar catch.
Yes. We'd be
geeking
out about it.
It's disappointing, but I don't think it's like a bad thing. It's not something that like left me feeling uneasy afterwards. Cause like he extended his arms. He could have extended arms a little bit longer. But like whenever you say, oh damn, that would have been a really good catch, then you got to give him a drop. That's okay.
Right. Yeah, it's fine. Drops happen.
Yeah. And this might come up later in the pod, but when I'm looking at especially our receivers and tight ends right now, the fact that Kanik is functionally an offensive true freshman definitely should be factored in. Like he was a linebacker that has stepped into this role. Did he have one entire off season before this decision was made, or like at most he had one off? It really doesn't matter. At most he had one off season. Yeah, and has stepped into this role as tight end 1 for this team. Where like I think everything I look at with Kanik needs to be is through that lens of. This guy is, even if he played it in high school or whatever, right? It's not the same as playing SEC ball or, Big Ten ball against a Big Ten, Michigan opponent, right? It's what we got from him was, I think, that was hero ball for someone in his position. Like 5 catches, 1 was very clutch, 69 yards. And like yes, he could have done better. Maybe that ball could have been thrown a little better as well. It's what we're talking about. We don't need everyone to be perfect in stats, right? Because we've seen that there can be guys that are amazing on paper. Spencer Rattler and Jackson Arnold comes to mind, right? Like amazing dudes on paper, but it just doesn't click. Like you need those vibes, and I think Kanik brings great vibes and tremendous effort. And for me, I love seeing it. Like that first catch he had too, when it was I think still 0-0, but just seeing a scrappy dude wearing number 12 come across the middle and make a clutch catch, and just getting that slight little hint of a Drake Stoops flashback is just amazing as an OU fan. Like it was like
Drake Stoops.
Yeah, it was like a little, if you squint and just it was like hints of, like, inspired by, you could tell that the OU football gods had sprinkled in a little Drake Stoops and a little Baker Mayfield on that play. And it was one of those, like, you can make an edit where, like, if you close your eyes, does it seem like nothing changed at all? And it's just right back to Bake and Drake Stoops and stuff. So that was cool, and I love that from Kanik.
It's Drake Stoops, but if he had one of the little mushrooms from Mario, and he just
Drake Stoops
up a little bit.
If peds were just overtly legal in college football.
Right.
He also
And
grew
you know,
like 6 inches.
yeah, that catch was awesome. And you know, what actual position he plays is super weird because he's not a traditional tight end, really. He's not an H back. I know I kind of mentioned that last pod, but he's definitely like, when you compare him to Dimitri Flowers or Trey Millard or someone like that, very much not like that. And after the game, they asked Arbuckle what he played, and he said he's a burger back. He's our burger back.
He's offensive cheetah.
Which is great because nice little reference to Burger, Cadix dog, who I actually got to meet, which is really cool. He came by the tailgate, so got to give Burger a pet. Very, very, very sweet dog. Anyways, other thoughts on the offense, guys, before we Satania, I thought offensively was good. Like receiver Satania was great. Special team Satania, it makes me very angry.
He had the one bad drop. He had the one bad drop, so he had 2 essentially drops in this game. Which I beg.
One was a lot bigger than the other.
I beg of you, Ty. Do not put people on your bit list already. He do not put him on there.
It's not a bit list. Once again, right? Looking at we're looking at someone in their 4th year of SEC play. Couldn't make it work at his last school. Comes here and wide open. The ball is bouncing off your face mask. You're on a different leash than guys like Kanik or true freshmen.
You think CeeDee Lamb's a bad wide receiver?
CeeDee Lamb is playing in the NFL against NFL.
Yeah, but he had 4 drops. A drop that has nothing to do with who you're playing against. That just matters about you and your hands.
He was atrocious this weekend. CeeDee Lamb also doesn't have.
He's still
CeeDee Lamb also doesn't have Mateer throwing to him. CeeDee Lamb is dealing with a questionable situation at quarterback at best. So
drops can happen. Are you going to take like n equals 1 game and then judge him for it for the rest of the season?
Well, how many times did the ball come towards him in this game?
I don't know.
He had 4 receptions.
He had a hell of a catch with his full extension. I think that was.
I think the ball came towards him 6 times, and one was a fumble that put Michigan back in the game, and one was an egregious 3rd down drop that really stunted our momentum for a little bit.
Give him like a couple more games, and if he has some more bad drops, okay, but like the same time,
it's his 4th year. Yeah, no, I will, right? And I'm not going to give him that. He's not Trajan Bridges mode. Hopefully, for the people that live in Crimson Park Apartments, he is not. But right,
it's a bad take, man.
It's not the right take. And I understand the muffed punt was really bad. That was a problem. But overall, I thought he was fine,
in his defense. One of the biggest pieces of his defense that people are putting out there is that he stopped an interception on a ball that wasn't thrown to him.
And then the next play, he had a hell of a catch. Like it was a back-to-back.
Yes, but he's supposed to have catches every time the ball comes at him.
But it was still a good thing. So are we going to just ignore all the positives and just only talk about the negatives?
So every good thing that happens is just neutral, and the bad thing is the worst thing ever. And we throw them in the trash.
They even out. It's the Zach Sanchez thing. Yes, you can have interceptions in every game, but if you're giving up the same number of touchdowns as you are interceptions, you're just neutral. And Satania, for me, had 2 okay plays if you count a quote-unquote broken up interception that maybe wasn't going to be caught anyways, and then 1 catch, and then 2 egregious plays that had direct impact on the game. It's like at best he's neutral.
Batting
so we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Also, he's neutral right now, but he is certainly he's on probation. He's on someone's watch.
And that drop, it was a drop, but let's not put it on the same par as the fumble. The fumble was bad. He's got to lock in on special teams.
Breaking up an interception is like a plus towards him.
That's that's a high IQ play. That tells me that he's a smart guy, and that's another invaluable characteristic to have as a football player.
Is he smart? I'm going to pull.
Yes, he legitimately went out of his way to break up like a DB an interception. And once again, if we get an interception right there, John Mateer's game will be talked about differently, straight up, because he threw probably 3 total possible interceptions this game, maybe more.
Yeah, I think we need to roll on this one, but it's agree to disagree for right now.
You can put him on probation. You can have it in the back of your head that you're worried about him. That's fine.
He's on bit watch, but
I will say the second they started calling me out for this bit in the group text, he dropped the punt. So You guys are maybe jinxing him right now by saying he could be getting arrested as we speak for something.
Anyway, well, that's a weird thing to take. Anyways, let's talk about some other standouts here. So I feel like we've covered the offense. I think we probably don't need to dive into the minutia of the O-line. I thought they were great. We didn't really cover a ton of defensive standouts. I don't want to go back to the old days of like rattling everyone off.
We didn't talk about Owen Heineke yet, which, like
awesome.
I keep looking at him like, why the hell is this guy in the field? Like, we got really damn good linebackers. Stop rotating. But then he goes out and he does really good things. The dude's an athlete. He's a ball seeker. Like, we talk about effort. We talked about other players with effort on this podcast already. You're not going to have to worry about that with him. And whenever you have a guy who can go out there and try his hardest and put out 110% effort, like, he's going to go out there and make plays.
Yeah, he balled out, and I love the whole like kind of walk-on story. He Venables mentioned at one point that Heineke pissed him off as a freshman because he kept trying to sneak into the linebacker lines, which is just great. I love a guy who's tenacious. He was out there and just willing to go out and get it, and he's performing like it. So Heineke, yeah, big Heineke guy for sure. I thought Sammy Omasigo was incredible as well.
He looked like the best linebacker 2 weeks in a row, which is crazy.
Yeah, he was a boss there. Kip Lewis, solid game as well. Just overall, great linebacking game. I thought Kendall Daniels' hit really established a lot of the game early. Just wiping out Justice Haynes. Loved that. I don't know. It just overall, and let's talking about guys who, one mistake shouldn't define everything. Cortland Guillory, I thought was awesome.
Very good.
Outside of the little miss situation with the massive run, I thought it was great, wall to wall.
Yeah, it wasn't even like all his fault too. Like the linebackers and the safety and him all didn't have their accurate gap and contain. So it was just everyone was bad, and he was the one that was closest to the running back to make the play.
Yeah, I think that was a scheme more than a. We look flat execution wise, but if you just look at the moment, if you look at like a screenshot of the moment that ball snapped, and you just think about basic geometry, you're like, oh, this is not going to be good for OU, regardless of what Michigan has dialed up here, unless they fumble the snap. But yeah, the depth of this defense, I will say, was insane. And it's like you could see in this one, and this is my thing about Michigan that I kind of touched on earlier, and like Jameson talked about, and like we've kind of talked about, right? Who knows what the season is going to have in store for this Michigan team? Who knows what this win is going to look like at the end of the season? One, it's a win, but two, you can't say that this Michigan team doesn't have talent. If they don't produce wins and they're not successful through the season, that's very possible. That could be the most likely outcome for them, but it's not for lack of talent and skill on their roster. And when I look at this OU win against Michigan, the main thing that I'm looking at is just position group, and how people were matching up, and those things that don't change. Like, you can go watch the Mateer tape from last game even and say, oh, but they were only playing whoever, but you can also see him just stare down a sack, not a care in the world, and get the ball where it needs to be and then take the hit a split second later. And that's going to translate to whoever you're playing. And for me, this defense, the effort and the coordination and the depth, being able to plug anyone in, and at no point did it look like or feel like at any point, if someone subbed out, oh, that group or that spot got slightly weaker. It was tremendous depth throughout, tremendous effort throughout. And I think that's going to be really, really worrisome to people when they watch this tape for this Michigan game, because say whatever you want to about this team and how they turn out, they're still strong, they're still fast, they're still big, they still have the blue chip 4-5 star power on their offense. And if I'm an opposing team looking at OU tape right now, I'm looking at how this defense, the time of possession was something I was talking about in our text a lot. Our final drive really skewed that back in our favor. And I don't think it was ever like wildly out of balance, but there was a good bit of time where the time of possession delta between OU and Michigan was 5 to 6 minutes, which 2.5 quarters in is trending fairly large. I never saw a drop off from this defense. I was worried because of the amount of effort that I was seeing from this defense early on, at least on TV. It may have looked different in person, that we were going to see that drop, right? This group looks so conditioned. There was so much effort. And like guys like R. Mason Thomas, I actually wasn't that high on the stats looking at it, but he was all over the field. He was a guy that had clutch plays last year and here and there. But every single dude that is returning, you look at him and you go, that is that dude's best moments from last year, except now it's on every play. And seeing the magic of Venables, I think with Arbuckle being like Venables truly being able to focus on this, like finally getting a legit OC for once that knows what he's doing, and Venables able to focus on this group and develop them. This defense is, again, I'm not saying we're going to be amazing. I'm not saying we're going to lose a bunch or whatever. However,
we're going to be amazing. Say it.
No, this defense is better. This defense is amazing, and this defense will be the envy of a lot of other teams in college football. We could have 4, and this is completely hypothetical. I'm not trying to do a bit or like read in the schedules. We could have 4 losses, and the team that wins the SEC probably still has a worse defense than ours. And it's not one of those like last year where it's like statistically we're pretty good, but it's like you kind of feel like we're just getting lucky and like scheming our way in. Top to bottom, talent, effort, conditioning, performance, staying dialed in. This is a team like the defense set the tone, and they're going to continue to do that. And I think it's really, really going to worry people because I don't think we're that susceptible to injury. I don't think I've been going for super long, so I'll just stop. But it's the depth here and the effort, the conditioning, the execution is I'm not trying to do Bobby bit. This looks like a national championship defense. I am not saying that OU is going to win.
No, because you're right.
No.
We're in this.
Carries a team to the Natty.
We talk about jinxing so much. Ty, just say it. Just say it outright.
It's a national championship defense.
Because we're going to get to the semifinal, and Satania is going to drop 3 passes, and you guys are going to come to me for saying that he wasn't that good. And it's going to be verboten to speak of because it's going to be too emotional. But
okay, and if that happens, so be it. But I'm not going to start dogging on him right now, September 7th.
Right. And I think Ty's point, though, this is that defensive unit, that elite, like top-level unit that Brent Venables and that defensive staff have been building for since he stepped on campus, that we dreamed about, that could happen, that SEC-ready defense. This is it. This is as good of a defense as any in the country. And I think if you're a Sooner fan, you're absolutely thrilled with that. And of course, the question, I feel like that feels very confirmed. The question is, if the offense can round out into shape and become, if not an elite unit, a very good unit, then you're really cooking. And I think, to me, looking at this game, the things you point out about this team, it was not a perfect performance by any means. It was like there were issues with this win. There's room for you to get better, but it's all fixable. It's all stuff that you can tighten up, you can fix. The penalties, the little mistakes, all of these
running
things
into the kicker, not a roughing the kicker. Let me just say
that was a little bit of BS. That should have been a 5-yard instead of a 15-yarder. But also, you probably shouldn't have gone all the way after him, in that situation, kind of bailed him out.
It happens.
Totally.
He was looking at the ball that had already been kicked while still running full speed in just the direction that he was running before, which is like, you might hit something if you're running and not looking where you're going, to be fair.
Legitimately ran into the kicker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all fixable is my thing. And I think, to me, that's great. It's not like, oh, we need to totally revamp our offense and fire our guy, and now some random tight end coach is going to be our, like, the stuff that you can't solve mid-season like we had last year, or our quarterback's situation's a mess, our offensive lineman doesn't have the right guys in place. Those issues you can't fix mid-season. The stuff that you saw in this game, you can tidy that up and go from very good to elite. I feel like I think OU has that potential to be that good. And I know Michigan probably not as good as we thought entering it, and might not end up being a great team when it's all said and done. But that's a really good performance. That is a good performance. If it was against West Virginia, you remove the winged helmet and put on a little WV, we would say good performance, but you can do a lot better. It's not a signature win, but by the end of the year, you'll have chances to make them.
It could be, right? Because it could be a confidence building thing. And it just, in short, if you said it better than I was, Bobby, this is just finally an elite defense, and not to diminish the defenses in years past, but they were pretty good or very good defenses. There's a difference between very good and elite. And we have at least so far seen an elite defense from this OU team, which is very impressive. And like you said, college football, you're not going to see a perfect team. No one has ever had a perfect college football team. I don't care who you think is the best ever in college football. If you go back and watch that actual season and put I'm a homer fan of this team, there's going to be plenty of moments where you're like, that was a bonehead move. What was going on there? What are we doing here? Like, that's what makes college football beautiful, I think, is the sloppiness of it. Even the best teams, it's that sloppiness because you get that randomness that you just don't get in the NFL. And to me, that's really exciting. And yeah, I'll say this is the first time in a long time that I've watched an OU football team and thought and felt, this is Oklahoma football. This is what Oklahoma football is supposed to look like. This is what college football is supposed to look like. Just two blue bloods, night game, not a care in the world, just slugging at each other in a home and home, and good blood between the fan bases. We need to talk about that too before we go. But
yeah. Well, let's head into that as we wrap up. That was the best uniform matchup on Owen Field I've ever seen. Loved it. Gorgeous. Like that, just peak college football. The Michigan fans, I thought, were delightful. I had no problems with them. I thought they were great. And the atmosphere from front to back was as perfect as it could get at OU. We've had plenty of conversations about how to make tailgating better and how do we make the fans more engaged, all this. Like, all of those talks have led to this, which is a fully formed, perfectly realized, excellent game day environment, something to be truly proud of. And you got to commend the university for, figuring out everything with the North Oval and, the changes they've made and the calls to action that the fan base have answered. That's something to be proud of. I genuinely think they have cranked up that environment. It was a special, special day.
Yeah, you got to adapt whenever you get into the SEC. And here's the thing. If you build it, they will come. If you put out good football and if you put out good opponents as your opponent every week, there are going to be people that are going to show out if you give them the landscape to succeed. And when it comes down to tailgating and atmosphere. And it seems like we're clicking right now.
I have one bone. Go ahead. I have a bone to pick really quick though. And it's not with OU. Ty, you got it. I'm sorry.
No, it also needs to be shouted out as Bobby is charging up here, and we haven't mentioned it yet. But to do this on game day as well, when you get those casuals watching, especially when on the scheduling end, just being the only two relevant sounds demeaning to other people, but it was easily the best matchup. There was not a question mark on is this the best matchup of the weekend. And it was the best football game too, I think. It was because we didn't run away with it, right? So even if you're a casual watching, but that's the kind of thing we need to be gaining in this current era of college football is sometimes you just got to get those viewers. And to do this on college game day, this was the first college game day that I can recall where top to bottom, it was just such an amazing showing for OU. The Michigan fans loved it. You didn't see a single negative thing from a Michigan fan that actually went to the game. On social media, the environment was amazing on game day. It was perfectly placed on the South Oval. Our dude, shout out to, oh God, I've got to think of his name. Our dude who hit the kick on Pat McAfee after Jack Duggard, accounting freshman from Houston, just absolutely stoned out of his mind. Literally listening to Frank Ocean before. I don't know if you got to watch the clip yet.
Yeah, they said, he was like, "What are you listening?" He's like, "Frank Ocean," and they're like, "Oh, okay."
They were flaming this kid. He was barely functional. showed up with cleats, which did not seem to fit him, which should have been fairly alarming to everyone involved. And then just absolutely smoked it after Kirk was talking mad crap about him, getting to shoot the shotguns and stuff. Boomer and Schooner out there, this was such a beautiful showing for the university against. Not against anyone. I don't know why I said against. That's so divisive. But just in the entertainment sphere, we didn't look like a fly. We look like a relevant college football team. It's powerful. It's here to do something. So that was awesome. And now Bobby's going to go on a Schooner rant about something.
I'm good. It's definitely an old man yells at cloud take.
Oh,
maybe.
Oh,
and I think
I just
both
don't
of
like
y'all,
the smell at the tailgate.
No,
They
no.
smoke homes.
No, both of y'all are going to be like, "Oh, this is dumb." I think it's an absolute ridiculous, cheap, poverty move that Michigan didn't bring their band or their cheerleaders or any of that to the game. There was no band.
Allowed to?
No, they're allowed to. Every single SEC team brought their band last year. Every time I've been on the road, to a major game, OU brings their band. They bring a little pep band. They bring, the mascots. I will say, full disclosure ahead of time, apparently they're not bringing them to Temple, but, let's be honest, it's Temple. Who would fly out to Philadelphia to watch OU and Temple? It's ridiculous. Silly idea. But no, Michigan didn't bring their band. And I think that's a massive disservice because one of the fun things about these massive matchups is getting the flavor of these other teams, hearing those fight songs. And The Victors is one of the best college football fight songs, without a doubt. And not even having that once is a bit of a disgrace on Michigan's end. I think it's a little insulting to the fans who traveled there. I think it's insulting to the magnitude of the game. I understand it's expensive, and at this time of NIL and penny pinching, blah, 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 you're Michigan.
They can afford it.
You're Michigan. You can afford it. Get Larry Ellison or Dave Portnoy or whoever. Pay a little bit of money to bring your atmosphere and represent your university on the road in a big game like this. You've never been to Norman, and you just cheap out on it. You're Michigan? You won a national title 2 years ago. You're a blue blood. This is behavior unbecoming of a blue blood. It's absurd. They should feel embarrassed. And look, if OU doesn't bring their band to the big house next year, I'll say the exact same damn thing about OU.
We're gonna bring our band, Bobby.
Of course we are. Of course we are. That was one of the coolest things about that Ohio State trip, Jameson, was not only did OU bring the full band, Ohio State let OU do the pregame on the Horseshoes field. That was maybe excessive if you're an Ohio State fan, but I thought it was cool as hell. I think it adds to the energy, it adds to the atmosphere, it adds to this cool uniqueness of these two teams playing that have never played before. But I don't know. Well, yeah, South Carolina last year, they brought the chicken. They brought the chicken with them.
Did they, or did they just buy one locally?
No. They brought Sir Big Spur with them. The very Sir Big Spur. It's a fancy chicken tie. You can't just find that at down the road and in Purcell. Those don't come.
Don't you talk about the heart of Oklahoma?
Is this man on an OU podcast in an OU hat saying that Oklahoma has inferior poultry to South Carolina?
I'm not saying they're inferior. I'm just saying I don't know if you can find fancy chickens quite like that. I please, people of Purcell, I would love to see a chicken on the quality of Sir Big Spur. This is your time to step up and show everyone.
You are right.
This man
what
is
makes
just
Bobby a cock expert in Oklahoma?
Did I just
hat? Where's his fucker hat?
I just realized that I asked the entire town of Purcell to send me pictures of.
I want the biggest too. I want the biggest.
I want the biggest. I want the fanciest. I want to see. I want to see rural Oklahoma. Please send them all in.
Show me what you got.
Show me what you got.
Normally, I'm going unhinged at the end of the pod, but Bobby's just calling out. One, why is this the town of Purcell? What do you have against Purcell? Why are you calling it out?
Random town.
How dare you?
Why'd you start calling out? I will not.
Valley.
You can't be calling out the Ellison family too. I don't know what they did. I actually have met the son David several times, including when I was little, and he's awesome. I don't know what you're
it's
calling him
probably
out.
not there. Like it's Michigan, the university's thing. The Ellisons, all of them. They pay the players. But what I'm saying is, don't cheap out on the band. And a part of the reason why I'm letting them have it is I've been criticized in the past from whenever I have strong opinions after a game. I say I'm going to rant about this on the podcast. I'm going to let them have it, and then the emotions wane. And then the next day, I don't really go on that rant. And they're like, hey, what the hell? You're going to let them have it. And you didn't do anything. So I'm standing my word. I'm standing to my word of me at 1 a.m. on the way back from the tailgate that I'm going to let Michigan have that. Because that was sad. Outside of that, like the Michigan fans deserve better than a no-show from the band and the and the cheerleaders.
You know who are farm not knowers is Michigan. In fact, we need to be attacking this state more. We need to pull up some statistics and stuff like that.
Let's not have a farm argument. Come on, Oklahoma already gets enough bad rep.
No, yeah, not great. Well, we'll save that for next year. But all right. Well, moving on. Got a big game against Temple. Very excited about that. Jameson, you and I are going to be at that one.
Hell yes.
Ty, you're great college football weekend ahead for the Schooner Pod folks, because apparently you're going to go see Boco and Arizona State
on sites. Yeah, does Blake have a home game? Is Blake going to be reporting live from somewhere he picks on the weekend spread as well?
I think they play at home.
Yeah.
Or wait, do they? Or they bye this week?
Well, they're away next week. They're coming out here.
TCU always has those weird ass early buys.
Nope. They've got Abilene Christian. They had bye this last week. They're Abilene Christian at home. Opener, baby.
So basically there you go. So everyone's going to be on site at a college football game. That's going to be great. I don't think we need to preview Temple much. I think they're a little bit better from last year.
I think that we can talk about what we want to see from our team coming into this, because I think it was very clear in game one was not about doing your typical game one prep, see the young guys. That was a prepare for Michigan, rest the people, and put all your eggs into the Michigan basket. Now that's to the side now. And I think that they could do something similar for Auburn again. And if we see this lack of rotation, not seeing a lot of young guys when it comes especially down to the wide receiver room, okay, maybe they're just saying, screw this. We're treating this like we have new management and we've got a GM, and the young guys will have their time in the future, but this is now professional. This is not college. This is professional, and the big boys are going to eat first. And if they need to eat a little bit more at the table, I'm sorry, freshmen, you're not going to eat as much. And I think that's fine to succeed in the now. But I think hopefully in the Kent State, but I'm hoping in this game, we can see guys that are young, that we talked a lot about in the offseason, recruiting, to where we can see like who's going to be that darling true freshman, or like the Michael Boganowski of last year that did something really fun as a young guy and was like, wow, maybe I'm really excited to see him whenever he gets more run, like Reggie Powers did last year. I want to see those kind of guys go out there and make plays against Temple in the second half, instead of seeing, John Mateer and Deion Burks playing into the middle of the end of the fourth.
Yeah, agreed. Take care of business early so we can get to that point. Don't have a hangover situation. The schedule has too many pitfalls and too many big opponents to allow yourself to slip at any point. Temple should not be one of those.
Temple kind of balled out in their first two games, though, Bobby. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
That offense is better than it was last year. It's a low bar, but this is a better Temple team than last year. I think you can.
And they played Howard and UMass. I get it, but still, they were disrespected in that UMass by Vegas, and they beat them by 32.
Yeah, they weren't doing this against Howard and UMass last year. That's how you can tell it's different.
So they ended the season off kind of decently, honestly. I don't know why I was, but I was somewhat paying attention to their box scores, and the way that they're trended, they kept things a little bit more competitive. like nearing the end of the season, throwing out that Tulane game, because Tulane at home just sucks for a team like Temple. But they beat FAU. They gave UTSA some fits early in the game. They gave UNT some fits in the game. Like, they had a decent end of the season in terms of what we thought Temple was preseason.
Yeah.
I will say on the Temple game, can we briefly, and this does not have to be the conclusion of Temple, but can we briefly explain, because I've heard from some OU fans, such as Boomer Blake, tune in Wednesday for our Picks Pod to see Boomer Blake, who will probably be wearing a Texas A&M shirt in spite of the fact that he has a diploma from Baylor and says that he is a TCU fan. But that's for Wednesday. Can you explain why we are playing this game at Temple on paper, even though it's at Lincoln Financial? Because I think some people
play their games.
Yeah.
They play.
Oh, that's where they play all their games.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They pay. They
kind of blown out nowhere. I thought this was a site.
like a special game. No. They pay rent to the Eagles.
Like USC.
Yeah. So
they're like a Philly team. They're like, whenever you play in Philly, obviously it's kind of hard to get a stadium.
So that brings me to I have a graph here that I actually made the other day. But if you're watching on YouTube, if you will please consult the graph, these green dots are on ball knower states. And if you will notice, outside of California here and in the South, there are only two other ball knower states, and that is Pennsylvania and Ohio. So for those curious as to why OU is traveling to Pennsylvania, please consult the graph. These are, in fact, ball knower states, defending Super Bowl champs.
Tennessee.
Ty.
No. I'm talking about where recruits are produced. No. Ball knower state relates to where recruits are produced, not where like teams are necessarily, right? Because otherwise the NFL would just be trash. Like, the NFL would be run by Florida and Georgia teams, and it's very obviously not. So,
oh my gosh, as is tradition, week two, we're gonna make the Tennessee folks mad.
Okay, Tennessee is gonna say that their high school football produces talent on par with California, Texas, Ohio.
Did you put us on there?
Florida. Yes.
Yeah.
So, these are the ball knowers.
But here's the thing: the headline is OU podcast thinks Tennessee is not ball knower state. Like, that's
look, if they can show me what they produce in terms of 4 or 5-star talent and people making it to the league. I
don't want to be that person, Ty, but the number 1 overall quarterback in the country this year is from Tennessee.
Okay, I could be wrong, right? I'll flex on Tennessee. They can be added to the list. Arkansas,
well, he might not be number 1, but he's like a top 5 guy, like Jared Curtis, like, is from Nashville.
I'll do more research. We'll reconvene on this on Wednesday. But the point is, it is not below OU to travel to Pennsylvania, especially in the current recruiting environment, especially when we're hot in Pennsylvania right now for casual fans with Jalen Hurts and some of the star power out there. I don't think it's – Blake keeps trying to say this is like a quote-unquote poverty move for OU to do a home-and-home with Temple. It's absolutely not. It's like a home-and-home with – shout out to Jameson USF. Would also be beneficial. Like, I think playing in those states always helps. It's, you never know the butterfly effects of playing those games. Like, any game we can play out in California, any game we can play in, like I said, Ohio, like, that stuff has a big impact.
Give me UCLA again.
They have a San Diego State road game already planned.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we schedule those. It's not an accident that we're playing in these states that produce talent.
And it's not for the football. It's for, one, getting, a bit of a recruiting base out there. And two, I think it's important for the alumni bases, across the country to be able to see the Sooners in person, easy travel. You've seen a very strong showing from the NYC Sooners, the DC OU group, both are making massive runs out there, reserving sections. And Home Field Apparel, no free ads, is doing like a whole, they're doing a whole, they do a thing where they come to different games to, as a tour. They're coming to Temple, but not for Temple. Like, they're only selling OU shirts at the Temple Roadshow. That's a pretty cool deal. And I think for me, it's about the fans. It's about the alumni, who get to see a cool city. West Coast teams like Jameson. That's a short little train trip up. So, or
gonna
East
be
Coast,
fun
I
to
think.
see the Schooners in person.
Yeah, your second time at the link, if I recall correctly.
Correct.
No, first time was a Chargers win, but excited to have some cheesesteaks. See a cool city, a cool history there, and all that. And Ty, any final notes?
Can I say very briefly, final note? If
Yeah.
we're looking at overall NFL players produced from high school, Tennessee is top 15, which I think would be a ball nowhere state. But per capita, they're still fairly respectable. But per capita, what is this? NFL players by state per 100,000 inhabitants. OU 13, Tennessee, or not OU, Oklahoma 13, Tennessee 8. So, per capita, we are in fact a ball nowhere state. I will say I'm going to add Tennessee to the ball nowhere state list because, like, per capita, Missouri's putting up less than 5. Like, there's some embarrassing states on these lists. But yes, Tennessee, I will say you are a ball nowhere state. I was not familiar with your stats.
They're going to still find a way to aggregate it anyways. And
that's fine. We're still much more of a ball nowhere state. So
yeah,
they thought Nico was a good quarterback, which, to be fair, we thought Jackson Arnold and Spencer Rattler were. So maybe 2 wrongs versus 1 wrong for them, but
we'll see. There you go. Jameson, final thoughts?
Nothing really. I'm just excited to see some more football, and it's weird to say that Michigan game, I understand there was a little bit of pressure in the third quarter. I felt pretty just confident and enjoyed watching. It's going to be fun doing that again, but when it comes down to Auburn time, I'm going to be pretty nervous. So I'm excited to talk about that game.
Yeah, that Auburn game is going to be fun to talk about. The discourse is going to be unreal on that. So very excited to get to that, but got to take care of business, beat Temple. So thank you all so much for listening on your favorite podcasting app or watching on YouTube. We will be back on Wednesday to make our picks on the weekend spread with Boat and Blake. So hopefully y'all will tune in there. We do that 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, bring your friends, bring your dogs, everyone tune in. Shout out to Penny. Great OU dog right there, Penny. So yeah, we will see y'all next time for sure. But until then, Boomer Sooner, everybody.